Right. Take it away.
All right, so we're going to go over the minimum requirements now for UC transfer. Again, 60 transferable units to the UC system. GPA slightly higher. If you're a resident of California, it's a 2.4 transferable GPA. If you're a non-resident, it's a 2.8. You must have 2 English composition courses. So English 1A is 1. And the second one, you have 3 choices. English 1B, English 1C, or Communication Studies 2. That would be the second one. 1 transferable math course. As I mentioned before, 4 subject courses that are coming from 2 of those 3 subject areas. So if you remember, when we went to assist, there was that column heading with letters of either S for your physical and biological sciences, H for arts and humanities, or B for social and behavioral sciences, right? So when you look for your list of what courses transfer, on that far right, you're trying to identify at least 4 subject courses from 2 of those 3 subject areas, okay? So this is step 1 for UC transfer. Any questions?
Oh, so
Yes.
well, like most campuses, like I read their articulation agreements, they usually don't require you to like take arts and humanities courses outside like English and stuff. We start to like take them anyways, since like on the slide.
Okay, so when you're looking at assist, articulation.
Repeat.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So this question was that on assist, on the articulations, that in terms of what's on this particular slide in the way of the subject courses, you may not see much information there, or if there's any information there, it's sort of minimal. Yes? Is that good?
Oh no, like for most engineering that majors, you don't need to like take arts and humanities and behavioral social sciences. They said like you don't need to complete that, I guess, whatever that means.
When you say, okay, so on assist, when you're saying that for engineering majors, that you don't need to take arts and humanities, you're representing the classes in the major, or are you talking about that one section that may reflect, I get the information?
Like for general pedagogy courses, transfer. Like for engineering, you don't need to like do most of these, like most of the lower divisions in practice. That's listed.
In the major?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you're looking at the information on assist, remember that's for the major. That's step 2. This is step 1. Okay? So when students are taking classes and working towards transfer to UC, then for most students, it's a combination of the 2 combined. You're working on satisfying this, okay, while you're working on what is required. Let's say that Davis articulation agreement we saw earlier for electrical engineering. All those classes are required, right? And you're doing those also. But you've got to have this. Because if you don't have this and you have everything that's in that agreement, you're not eligible for transfer. So this always comes first, right? So therefore, down here, this is a must. So the strategy is, let's say, again, engineering, right? You'll have classes in physics. You may have classes in chemistry. Those classes satisfy potentially major requirements at the same time, right? They're going to count in here, okay? But remember I said you have to use 2 of these 3 subject areas, okay? So in that example, you're allowed, of the 4 courses needed, to take 3 in here. So let's say it was physics 4A, 4B, and 4C that you do. Those 3 will count towards those 4 courses, right? But you must have 1 from here or 1 from here to make the 4. Because you have to satisfy 2 areas here. Does that make sense?
So English like counts as arts and humanities?
English, what English?
Oh, like English 1A, 1C?
No. Okay, so the question was if English 1A and 1C counted as part of humanities. So if it was English 1A and English 1C, the answer is no, because they're satisfying this up here. The 7-course pattern is right here. Okay, you got to have this collectively. So English 1A is 1, and then the second one is either English 1B, English 1C, or Communication Studies 2. Okay? So this is, as I said earlier, step 1. You got to have all of that. Step 2 is once you decide on the Canvas and major, then you follow what's on assist, try to understand what is required to be done for that particular major, right? And if you have any questions, then you should come into counseling so we can try to help you with that. Okay, question?
Will the transfer requirements that are asked from Davis for engineering, the total requirements will equal 60 units, or will it be more?
So as a byproduct of doing this and what's on assist, because you have so many requirements, right? When you tally up all those units, odds are you're going to have 60. Okay? If you happen to be a little bit shy, which for engineering, probably doubtful, but if you do, then you'll need to take additional classes on that entire list of all UC transferable classes, A to Z. Okay? And they could be elective courses. You're allowed 4 units of PE activity to count towards the 6 units for transfer to UC. That's perfectly fine. Okay? But in most cases, because of all the class engineering, I think as a byproduct, you'll get close to 60 or have more than 60.
Yeah, I feel like it's rare to see somebody. Do you see that often?
I would say majority of students that come in that have said they are applying for engineering, they got well past 60.
Well over 60.
Yeah. I'm thinking of a student that, as soon as they start here, they declare that they want to pursue engineering for a bachelor's degree, and perhaps if they planned it exactly right, then maybe it's right around 60. But most students that we've seen for engineering majors when they want to transfer, yes, they have well over 60.
I think some of these minimum requirements, if you follow the engineering transfer path, you blow right past the minimum requirements. So I wonder if some of the confusion here is between the CSU and the UC. Is there a difference between those two in terms of the minimum eligibility, which is pretty consistent?
It's similar, but if I go back, you can see on the CSU side,
Yeah, maybe this is a distraction we shouldn't do.
oops, right there. Okay. Oops. Okay. So they want most of the GE done as part of the minimum.
Yeah, okay.
And that's a big difference.
Yeah.
Right? But on the UC side, that 7-course pattern,
Yeah.
if you declared engineering early in your time in community college, okay, then you probably would want to focus on doing that minimum 7-course pattern and then focus on what you need for the major. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
So for those of us that have met with vet counselors, do you know if they created our education plan based off this transfer requirement or not? Or is that just something we should go speak to them about?
So the question was, if the student's a veteran, has worked with counselors in the Veterans Office, would that student's education plan take into account these particular requirements and goal? And I would say it's case by case. It depends on when you went to them, what you said your goals were. So as I mentioned to one other student, if your goal clearly is you want to transfer to get a bachelor's degree, if that was what you declared and that was your focus, then the counselor should be planning courses for you accordingly, meaning minimum requirements. And then let's say it was Davis, for example, right? Then the counselor should go to the ASSIST website and see, okay, you have all these courses required for that engineering major at Davis, so we got to put those into your plan also. So it depends on what you set up front. And if it was a different goal, maybe to get an associate degree, for example, then you may not have what you need if also you want as a goal to transfer, in this case, let's say to Davis in engineering.
Okay.
Yeah.
So more than likely, if we chose the bachelor route, then more than likely they did follow these these requirements depend on what school you're going to go to?
Exactly. So then if you said clearly up front, my goal is I want to transfer, get a bachelor's degree. Next question I would have asked is, do you know which campus and do you know what major? Because then it gets more specific, right? If you said, yes, a UC campus or a CSU campus, the counselor could say, well, here are the minimum requirements. So you must have that, right? But the next question is where and what? And once you answer that, that's where SIS comes in. That's where you get to see exactly what you need, right? Okay. All right, so when you're applying to UCs, in the UC application, as I mentioned earlier, there are three main sections in an application. Your academic history, personal insight questions, and extracurricular activities. So from an academic history perspective, right, this is what comes into play. It is, what is your transferable GPA? Have you done the major prep? And what's your GPA for those particular classes? And another factor that may come into play is whether you took any classes for honors. Okay. So at City College of San Francisco, you could optionally take classes for honors. In the class schedule, there are some already set up that way in the honors course section. And then case by case, if the instructor is willing, you might be able to take a class on honors basis. Okay.
Yeah, and in engineering, we don't have any honors sections, but you can always approach an instructor and propose that. There's no guarantee or requirement that that option be available. But it is, you know, the way I do it at least, it will be a lot more extra work, and you want to make sure you know your other courses aren't suffering as a result.
There's a question at the top.
Is there like a substitute for it? Like, say, like a program or an extracurricular activity that could fill that out? Or
The question is there an extracurricular activity that would fulfill this? Is that to me? Oh, no. So honors course is as he just said, it's a contract that you would agree to sign with the instructor. And to get honors designation on your transcript, you must be willing to do an extra project above everything else that's required in that class. And the extra project can be very time consuming. And so you have to be willing to do that without your grade suffering. So it's really important to keep that in mind if you decide to take a class for honors. Okay, and then they'll also get these other factors beyond the academic. So whether it's your answers to the personal insight questions, whether it's what you list under extracurricular activities, if you're considering UC Berkeley, UCLA, UC San Diego, those are non-UC tag campuses. Then in the application, it's all that information combined that they're going to look at and decide if you are competitive, if you have what they're looking for. And as you see on other slides, for those campuses, in particular Berkeley and UCLA, extremely competitive in engineering. And this is the website that you'll go to when you're ready to fill out the UC application. For those of you thinking of applying for a UC tag to one of the 6 UC tag campuses, there's a separate website, there's a separate application, and a separate deadline. Okay? So if any of you are considering that, then the tag applications are due in September of the year before transfer. And your regular UC application, this one here, is due in November, year before transfer. Okay, they're separate. All right, when can I apply to university for the engineering major? So, again, as I said earlier, if you're thinking of a fall admission, that's a given. That's an option, okay, for both systems. If you're thinking of, well, I'm going to be done by summer or possibly fall, and I want to start in January, as I said earlier, it may be possible to transfer either in what's considered spring semester or winter quarter, but you'll have to check with that campus and that major to see if they are accepting. In the UC system, 9 of the 9 undergrad campuses, 2 of them are accepting applications for a January start. It's UC Merced on semester basis and UC Riverside on quarter system. Okay, so those 2 are an option if you are in that position. True or false? Students need to finish GE before transfer. Yeah, false. So it depends
Who
on,
said it depends? That was perfect.
and the words "it depends" we use daily, almost with every student, because every student situation is unique. But generally speaking, depending upon, again, where you're considering transferring to, what the major is going to be. In some cases, I'll give you an example. I call San Diego State, similar to San Jose, it's an impacted campus. All majors are impacted. I've been told that if our students want to be competitive, then they are expecting students to have all the lower division GE done on that sheet that you saw earlier, as well as having all the major prep for that major on assist with about a 3.0 grade point average. Okay, so it will depend. I need to take, or I'm sorry, I need to stay at 70 units or less to be able to transfer. So this is a common question that comes up for us. If a student has collectively a lot of units and they're hearing that the maximum allowed for transfer is 70, then what happens? Do you pick, which 70 transfer? Does the university pick which 70 that transfers? So let me try to explain in that scenario what happens. So imagine that you have this. Oops. No. So imagine that you have this bucket of all transferable units and courses. Every time you take a class that transfers, they all go into that same bucket, right? So if you have 100 units, okay, all of that is used to calculate your transferable GPA, every class. And by the time you transfer, any requirement that's needed to get that bachelor's degree from your lower division GE to major requirements, or what's called graduation requirements, they give you credit for completing them. Okay, it's all checked off on your to-do list. But the maximum that you're allowed to bring with you to the university is 70. They'll just make a notation. If you're coming in with the max of 70 allowed, remember I said earlier on the slide you need 120 minimum, right? So if you had 100 in community college, they're not going to allow you to come in with 100 with 20 more to go. You come in with 70, and then you have all your upper division to do in the major, a little bit of upper division G perhaps, and a little bit of upper division graduation requirements perhaps. Okay. Anybody in that position where you have a lot of units already, like well past 70? Okay, does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, they'll consider all my GPA, but they'll only take in 70 that will account for my next diploma or whatever.
And any requirement that you satisfy, you're going to get credit for that being completed. Yeah, okay. No, true or false? Okay, I need to earn an associate degree to be able to transfer.
False.
False. However, there is what's called associate degrees for transfer that we've offered now for 7, 8 years. So if you decide on a different major, not engineering, let's say mathematics, we have 26 now associate degree for transfer majors, including math. So if you apply to a CSU campus where the major at the campus is similar to the ADT major that you've earned the degree in here, there are potential benefits that you can receive. Those benefits can include a slight bump in your transferable GPA of possibly 0.1 or 0.2. And there's what's called the California promise that after transfer, if the student wants to finish within 2 years, then you can receive early registration if you've earned one of these associate degrees and you've applied to a similar major. Okay, so not required, but it can be beneficial. Can students use AP test scores to fulfill requirements? Oh, sorry, question.
Council, can you repeat what you just said about that California promise?
So it's called California Promise. When you are applying for transfer to a California State University, in the application, it will ask students if you want to apply for the California Promise. And that would apply to the student if they say in the application, yes, I have earned or plan to earn an associate degree for transfer, and the major that you earn that degree in at community college is considered similar to the major that you're applying to at the university. If all that's a yes, and you want to try to finish within 2 years after transfer, then you would sign up for what's called this California Promise.
Okay, so thank you.
Okay. So, how many have AP test scores? Anybody? Couple? You do? Okay. All right. So, can they fulfill requirements? Okay. So, what I've learned over the years is that AP is really tricky, and it depends on what context you're trying to fulfill requirements. If you're trying to help get to 60 transferable units, okay, then it is a given that if you have AP exams with scores of 3 or better, you're going to earn some transferable units from those exams to help you get to 60. So that's a good thing. Now, if you've chosen a major, let's say engineering, right, and you're trying to fulfill requirements in the major like physics or calculus, then if you have taken those particular AP exams, okay, it's possible that you may have fulfilled requirements to the major, but again, it depends, comes back into play. It depends on if for that particular campus you're considering, based on the exam you took and the score you have to check to see if they say, yes, given the exam you took and the score, we consider that equivalent to this particular class at their campus. And if that class was one of the ones on assist, then yes, you have satisfied the requirement. Okay? So it's tricky. It could be helpful, but it depends on, again, what context you want to use that examination. Okay? If you're considering applying to California private universities, then this website, the AICCU website, has all of those universities listed with all this information there. So I would encourage you to look at that. In addition, we have agreements. I'm not sure if we have time to do that. Probably not. There is a website. I think it's on another slide. What's the fastest way to get to it? I'll just say it this way. If you're considering applying to a California private university, I would encourage you to see a counselor because City College of San Francisco has agreements with some of them. I would say approximately 20 to 30 California private universities. Okay? So if you're considering, one example, I believe we have one with Santa Clara. So if you're considering Santa Clara University in engineering, we have an agreement with them. You want to find out, well, what does that agreement consist of? The classes I've taken here at City College of San Francisco, how will they help me transfer there? Okay? I don't think we have time to go there, but check with me later if you're interested. Okay? Let's see. That's what this slide was referring to. I think I think the fastest way to do that. I'll just mention this for the online students that if you Google CCSF articulation, you'll see a link that has that same CCSF articulation. If you select that, then within that website, you'll see a link that says articulation that City College has with private and out-of-state universities. You can select that, and then you can see in California, again, the private universities that we have agreements with. Okay. All right, so this is sort of enlightening. This is just a comparative cost difference. And you probably already know this, but just for the sake of showing you in a slide, you're getting the best bargain in community college and filling requirements, especially here if you're eligible for Free City, of course. And then if you are transferring to the CSU campus on a full-time basis, that's what tuition will cost you per year compared to UC. And of course, private is going to be very expensive. And I think for most students, when they're considering private, that's the first thought that comes into mind, and immediately kind of shuts off that as an option for most. So true or false? I can't afford it. Okay. So most students would say yes, I can't afford it, right? Well, so we would say, if you have any interest whatsoever, if you can put that thought to the side, we would encourage you to talk to the representatives from the universities because it may surprise you that you could be eligible for either scholarships possibly grants, that's free money that can lower your out-of-pocket costs when it comes to tuition. So when all is said and done, once you have that information, the actual cost to attend a private university, it may be comparable to if you were to go to a public university. Okay? And we do have in the calendar, I believe, let me take a look, I think some private schools that are coming. We usually do. Well, Columbia was here. Bradman. And we do have some others from time to time. Oh, also, I should mention, which is on another slide. In the fall semester, we have what's called a college fair. That's usually held in October, but this year it's going to be held at the end of September. The college fair is held in the cafeteria. We have over 45 universities represented. That consists of all UCs, about a half a dozen or more California state universities, many California private schools, and some out of state, including Columbia. So I would encourage you to keep that in mind if you want to talk to these various representatives, and it's usually from 9 to 1. Just stop by our office and we can give you that specific date. Okay. All right, so for admission purposes, this gives you some idea of what it would take to be considered if you're considering either San Jose or Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. The San Jose GPA range is pretty broad, and that's because they have quite a few choices when it comes to engineering. So I wanted to show you that depending on the choice of major, that is possible, that a minimum may be sufficient, but again, it will depend, right, on which one you're choosing. They are accepting, you know, a fair number of transfer students compared to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, which is extremely competitive. So one of the handouts, the blue sheet, this is a Cal Poly San Luis Obispo sheet, okay, for one of their majors. This is biomedical engineering and general engineering. And so when you're looking at, it's on the back side, what is required of this major, this is the one, at least public university in California, where I would encourage you to go to their website, look up what's called selection criteria for a major like this information, because this is what you definitely need to follow. They're going to ask you how you're fulfilling what's required when you fill out an application. Okay? This should compare to what's on Assist, but definitely if this is the campus, one of the campuses you're considering, I would strongly encourage you to go to their website. Again, look up selection criteria for transfer and look up this information for your intended major. Okay? I guess I should also point out, underneath required, it does say desired. So as I think I mentioned earlier, on Assist, you may find that for particular majors, it says you have specific major prep that is required, and others that may be strongly recommended to be done. So this is an example. Okay. If you're considering UC Berkeley, as you can see, for all majors in the College of Engineering, right, they take very few transfer students. So actually, for our students in 2017, comparatively, it was pretty good. And I don't show GPAs, but you know these percentages, with this as an exclusion, I'll explain that. But it's very, very competitive. The numbers for nuclear are high because they get very few applicants to that major. I think the number was, I want to say the total is probably less than 50 total applicants. So they're very, very selective, and they take very few students. And UCLA is showing GPAs on their website, and as you can see, for those that fall into the greatest percentile, it's pretty much 4.0 that they're expecting for all those majors. So if you're considering a UC like UCLA or Berkeley, it's possible that students can be admitted. We have students that transfer. But you have to be in position to be competitive when it comes to your academics, as well as the other information. The personal insight questions, your answers need to be very thoughtful. They need to be reflective of who you are, and they must answer the question. That's really important. And your extracurricular activities, rather, Berkeley, UCLA, San Diego, those kind of campuses, they're looking for examples of leadership. Any special talents that you have related to your intended major. It's quality over quantity when it comes to that information, extracurriculars, on the UC application. All right, transfer admission guarantee. So, as I said before, there are 6 campuses. These are the 6. And as FYI, if you're considering other options, we do have guaranteed agreements rather with other institutions. So if you'd like more information about these, then come to the transfer center. We can go over that with you. Okay. But my main focus today was I wanted to make sure that for the UC transfer admission guarantee, that you understand 6 out of 9 participate. It's like insurance. It's a guaranteed transfer as an option. You don't have to go there. You choose not to. Okay. But I encourage you to consider it if you're going to apply to UC. Okay. And I'll give you one example. So if you're considering a Davis tag in engineering, then when you submit your tag application, I said September, right, before transfer, at that point, you must have at least 30 UC transferable units. You must have at least a 3.3 overall UC GPA. And any classes in your major, as you saw earlier on the CIS, we said you have to have a 3.2. Okay.
What do you mean by UC GPA?
Meaning classes that only transfer to UC. And then, of course, you need to, again, follow what's on assist, and you must do a UC application that's due in November. So even if you do a tag application, you're not done. That UC application due in November also must be done. Okay. And then this is just a comparison for some of the other tag campuses. The GPAs will vary depending upon which campus you want to try to tag to. So you can see Irvine's got a 3.4, Riverside's a 3.0, same as Santa Cruz. And that's only part of what you need to be eligible for the tag. It's also getting back to what you need for the major. And something important to note, that 7-course pattern that we talked about earlier, so 2 English composition courses, 1 transferable math, and the 4 subject courses. That all can be done by your final semester, and you're eligible to transfer. But for tags, it may say that, say Irvine, that the English, your first English composition course, and your math course, math course too, must be done in the summer, in the year before transfer, to be eligible for their tag. Okay, so there are special criteria. So you have to keep that in mind. We do have a summary handout in the transfer center on tags. So you're welcome to come in and either grab it or ask us if we can give that to you. Okay. And then this is just a summary of our services, which is on this other brochure, the one that has our pennant at the top. So if you're looking to develop an education plan, if you're looking to talk to representatives for transfer, if you're wondering about workshops, all of those are available through our office. You're welcome to come by. It's in 132, just down the hall. And we'd be happy to provide any of those services for you. Okay. I'd like you to fill out the backside of that post survey for me at this time. And unless you have any final questions, once you fill out that backside, then I am done.
Yeah, let's do some questions while you guys are filling out the backside.
Question?
The associates for transfer that you were talking about, the general engineering associates, is that associates for transfer?
It is not. So an engineering associate degree is what I call traditional. The ones for transfer, they've been growing over the years, but engineering currently is not an option for transfer in terms of associate degree for transfer.
Right.
Yeah, the department never created an associate's degree for transfer. I think one of the reasons for that was the number of units. That
Yes.
the ADT is very constrictive on
Yes.
units, and there wasn't a way for us to fit engineering into that unit count.
Okay.
Do you know how did math do it? Because that's a high unit.
It's because for the associate degree, it's only limited to the calculus series, inter-algebra differential equations. I think that's it. So
That's
I think the total is
I see.
like around 20.
Yeah, and so for engineering, it would be that plus 10A, 10B, circuits, 38. And by that time, you're over the limit. Yeah.
Because part of the benefits of those kind of associate degrees when this applies to a similar major is that when you arrive at the university, they cannot have you and require you to do more than 60 more units. That's capped as part of the ADT agreement with the California State Universities in California. And because of that constraint, when it comes to engineering, they can't make it work that way. So unfortunately, that's not an option.
Okay, so other than just having classes line up in a way that is beneficial, there's not necessarily a benefit to going for one kind of engineering associates over another.
I would say when we are seeing students, we're, especially if they're coming in for an associate degree petitions, we're checking to see, based on all the classes they've completed, if they're eligible for any other associate degrees, because we have over 90 that the college offers. And so if you can get 2, 3, 4 of them, we're trying to check for that. Just by the mere fact that you've done all these variety of classes. Okay. Yes, question.
Being that there's no associate for transfer, once I complete mechanical engineering technology associate, it will be next.
So it depends on the student's goal.
Bachelor's of Science in mechanical engineering.
Okay, so you can earn your associate degree as part of your journey, but your sights are set on getting to a university for a bachelor's degree, right? So if you've met the transfer requirements, you get an offer of admission that you accept, okay, then you go to that campus and you're working towards those requirements, and then in time you'll have that bachelor's degree.
Okay.
Right.
And you said that would like expedite like bump some of my conditions, or I they will bump something to make something fast.
Yeah, so I said that if the student got an associate for transfer here and the major that they apply to is similar, okay, then they may be eligible for a bump in GPA of 0.1 or 0.2. Okay, but we don't offer one in engineering, right? So therefore, if you're pursuing engineering for a bachelor's degree, then you're not in a position to get a bump.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's, in your specific case, we should chat. But, you know, and we will talk about this at some point in the semester. We have 3 associates in the engineering department. One is in electronics engineering technology, one is in mechanical engineering technology, and one is just engineering transfer, basically. The 2 technology ones, the electronics and mechanical engineering technology, if that's your academic goal, that's awesome, but it's not very well aligned with transfer. So if you get the MET one or you get the ET one and you're trying to transfer, you're still going to have to take a lot of stuff to get transferred. The 3rd associate's degree that we have, which is just a straight up engineering ad, we've tried to make that as well aligned with transfer as possible. And that one's, you can get that one on your way for transfer pretty easily. But the MET and the ET are slightly different.
Being that engineering is so complex, is it appropriate to minor in anything if I was to major in mechanical engineering?
I would say, you know, it depends at the university. If there's a minor that is of interest to you and it's offered and you want to do it, then that's your call and they'll work that out with you when you arrive. So it's a case by case, right? It's up to the individual. Any other final questions? Yes, question.
So State College offers certificate programs.
Yes.
I was wondering if those would come into play if you find to transfer.
It can.
Repeat-
We offer
repeat
quite
that.
a few certificates.
Repeat that one.
Okay. So the question was, when it comes to certificate programs here, are they beneficial when it comes to transfer? And I'm not familiar with the certificates that are offered here. I know that we offer many. I think if I were in your position, knowing that I have the intention of transfer, I would focus on, as I showed you earlier, satisfying minimum and major prep for the campus I'm considering. And as a byproduct of that, am I fulfilling certificate requirements? Hopefully, yes. And if I need an additional class or 2 to complete it, then you have to decide if you're going to do the additional class or 2 to earn that certificate or those certificates. When you put that information onto an application, which I'm not even sure how you would do that and where, I think that by the mere fact it's on a final transcript for you when you send that to a university, that will be part of your record going forward. I would say for admission purposes, most students, I don't recall them listing certificates, but associate degrees as part of what they earned, let's say at CCSF. Maybe you can put that in as part of additional comments. There's an additional comments box in the UC application. So not specific to a personal site question, any reflection necessarily of what you're doing as far as extracurriculars, but you want them to know that you earn these certificates here, you might do that. Okay. Yes?
About the cross-registration opportunities, is that something that you previously mentioned briefly about?
Actually, no, I didn't. So we do have, can't quite see it. We do have cross-enrollment programs with UC Berkeley. And for students that are interested, mills could be an option. If you're interested in the one with Berkeley, we have a coordinator in our counseling division, and in actually my department, and you would talk to that particular counselor about your interests. There are certain criteria to meet, but if you're eligible and you're interested, then you can take classes at UC Berkeley while you're taking classes here.
So then it only applies to middle scholars and UC Berkeley.
There are a few other options through a consortium, but that information you would have to check with admissions of records.
Okay.
And we do have a flyer that sort of at a very high level gives you a listing of other institutions that participate with that. So you can grab that if you like in our office. Okay. Okay. Any other final questions?
To comment on that, I know a few students who have tried to do the cross-registration at Berkeley. It's a little bit of a challenge because you basically get the bottom priority in terms of registration. So when once courses are full, if there's no space available, you can't get into the class. And so it is actually a great opportunity to take a class if you can find a class that isn't full. So basically what it comes down to. But and the beauty of it is you pay city college tuition, right? Is that right or something like that?
You know, I want to say it's free, no cost, but I'm not positive of that.
Okay.
But I mean, at worst case, it's going to be right the community
Yeah.
college price tag, which again I think it's free, but I'd have to double check.
Okay.
That. Okay. Yes.
Where is the transfer center on campus?
132 is down the hall.
Is that the next slide? I think it's the next slide.
Is it? Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, getting a bachelor's degree in engineering, and then looking to the future, like trying to apply for jobs and stuff like that, would getting a associate degree matter, or would they just strictly look at?
I would say generally, the higher degree is of more value. When I was filling out job applications and resumes, I put my associate degree along with my bachelor's and master's because I felt it was reflective of me and who I was. So it's kind of up to you. But I think the higher degree has more weight and value.
But I was told that, I guess the more degrees you have, the better you look. But since an associate degree is lower, then technically that doesn't matter. Is that what you're saying? Because the bachelor's degree is overruling the associate degree.
Well, you're speaking from an employer perspective,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I can't speak, from that view, other than when I was interviewing applicants for particular positions and looking at their resumes. To me, it was a sign of accomplishment. It was the fact that the student had set a goal, achieved that goal, and worked on other goals and achieved them. So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, if we hire this person and there's a particular project that they're assigned, I have some confidence that person's going to see it through to the end and complete it. So there's some value depending upon who the employer is. But ultimately, I think that the higher degree that you've earned, then the more options you have and the more weight that can carry. Any other questions? Okay.
All right, great. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So if you're done with those sheets,
We need these post sheets.
so pass them all up. Yeah. So those sheets, you can drop them off to me.
Or drop them off as you come out here. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Let's give Jack a round of applause for. coming in on a day off. Don't forget to finish the stuff on Canvas for next week. There will be a check-in for today's class. If you haven't seen the sign-in sheet, I have it up here. That's it. Have a great weekend, guys.